Very good morning to you all, and a nice early start today as City travel to the London Stadium to face West Ham United. Now, the East London team are level on points with us at the minute, but of course, we do have that Aston Villa game in hand from the start of the season. Now, you can see the team coming into the stadium there. And of course, the midweek win over Porto maintained a good run of form for us since the international break, but we did pick up some knocks. So you'll be glad to see there is some beautiful ginger hair there getting off the coach. Kevin De Bruyne is in the stadium. So we will be bringing you all the team news in just a few minutes. And joining me today in the We're Not Really Here studio over at the Etihad Stadium, we have some wonderful guests for you as always. And I am joined today by Shaun Gota and Michael Brown. Welcome, gents. And of course, Kyle Walker is here as well. And Kyle is going to bring us that all-important news that you all want to know. Kyle, have you got the team?
I do indeed. I do have the starting 11. So in net, we do have Edison, and then we've got João Cancelo, Eric Garcia, Ruben Diaz, and Kyle Walker making the defence. And we've got Rodrigo, Ilkay Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, and then it's Raheem Sterling, Riyad Mahrez, and Sergio Aguero completing your starting 11. But it's interesting. Let's have a quick look at the substitutes. We've got Zach Stefan, we've got Alexander Zinchenko, John Stones, and then we've got Kevin De Bruyne back on the bench, and then he's joined by Ferran Torres, Phil Foden, and Cole Palmer as well. So the big thing that we do have to talk about, KDB is back, Michael. He's on the bench. I think that's a big sigh of relief for a lot of Manchester City fans.
Well, it is, and it just shows you, obviously, the same team, and all the talking points will be Kevin De Bruyne. And straight away, when we seen it, wasn't it? He's on the bench, he's back. You know how much he brings to this Manchester City side. Me, personally, it's embarrassing how many good things I keep saying about him. He's just got everything, hasn't he? He's brilliant to watch, his passing range, his desire. So if it's interesting that he is on the bench, possibly could have started, maybe just, Pep thinks just hold on a little bit, make sure he is okay.
Well, get in line, Brownie, because I'm another one that keeps waxing lyrical about De Bruyne. Again, he's just awesome. It's great that he's on the bench. Know that if there's a need to up the tempo or increase the levels, we've got Kevin De Bruyne. So excited to see that he's on the bench.
Now, it's the same team, as we did say, that started against Porto midweek. Michael, I think every Manchester City fan now, it's the 10th attempt at the Champions League. We saw how dominant they actually were, and it feels like maybe Pep's found something that worked and he's decided to use it again today.
Well, he's really limited, isn't he, with the squad choice, the injuries. Defensively was obviously the decision. He brought back in Eric Garcia, where you would have expected Nathan Ake probably to start. Still hasn't made it. Obviously, Laporte being a little bit more long-term. So the decisions have been made for him. Lots of games, very, very quick. But it was a good reaction to a possible slow start against Porto. They came back and then we were very, very convincing. Seen off the game, very relaxed towards the end of it. And yes, it's games very, very quickly. But you look at the bench, he hasn't got tons of options, which you normally expect him a couple more. Phil Foden and Torres made the difference to win the game late on against Porto. So maybe one of those was pushing to get a start, but he's gone with the same team.
Yeah, and Shaun, of course, Sergio Aguero has come back from a bit of a long layoff there, obviously from the end of Project Restart, and came back last week for the Arsenal game, played then again midweek. Are you a bit surprised to see him in the starting lineup today, or do you think, when Sergio Aguero is fit, we've got to play him, even if it's just for 60 minutes?
Well, I am surprised because I believe that Sergio Aguero is at that place now where he needs to be managed. Coming back from the injury, more so about coming back from injuries, can we manage his minutes? So to play him consecutively in a number of games, I actually anticipated him being on the bench. But listen, I'm always pleased when Aguero is starting because we know what he brings, we know what he offers. He scored his 40th goal in the Champions League. I mean, he's just up there now with the greats. And for me, he was already up there. But yeah, awesome.
He becomes the 14th player to do that, to score 40 goals in the Champions League. We do wax lyrical about KDB. We talk so highly about these players, but Sergio Aguero, having him back in this team, all right, him coming back into the fold for this campaign, he is so important for us to winning trophies like the Premier League.
Well, let me tell you, those West Ham players will be looking down that team sheet and they'll say, I'm a defender there. I'm thinking, please rest Aguero. He's played 2 times. I don't want to see him again. I think they've managed it really well. Pep and his staff to only play 60 minutes. This was slightly more against Porto. It's exactly where you'd see it. And I would see that as being the same decision today because of the forward line. 60 minutes or so will be probably enough. But you can't always guarantee that it's going to happen. And Shaun will tell you, you plan for these accounts of making these changes. Things can happen. But they've got enough sort of stamina. We've seen what Raheem Sterling can go and drop in that 9 position when needed. And it's just great to see him on the pitch.
I bet what they want to see less than that is it's 60 minutes, the board goes up and you've got Sergio Aguero coming off and Kevin De Bruyne coming on. I think that might be worse for them.
That's the change they don't want.
Yeah, you may see them clapping. Yes, get him off. Get him off.
Now, one player we've got to talk about, Raheem Sterling. I feel like when Sergio Aguero is on the pitch, actually, it frees up Raheem Sterling. We talked about this so much last week. It gives him the freedom to go about and get into the positions he does. He still manages to score so many goals, Shaun. And actually, that's one of his elements of his game, which is brilliant, because you got Sergio Aguero, you got Raheem Sterling, followed by Riyad Mahrez. All three of those can produce goals for us.
Yes, exactly. So what you going to do today, West Ham? No, but yes, listen, Raheem Sterling he scored 104 goals. I mean, he's just going across the number of goals that I scored. And I could see him get to 200 because, one, he tends to, touch wood, he tends to be fit most games and plays most games. And he's improving every time when it comes to him finishing. I really like what I see of Sterling, his ability to play even up top at times or wide. I love what I see of Sterling.
I just talk about Sterling quickly. It's the last 2 visits, I think he's got 4 goals, a hat-trick in the last time out. So West Ham will be looking not just Aguero, they'll be thinking, that's Sergio Aguero, he's 4 in 4, the last 2 appearances to score 4 goals away at the London Stadium. I think Raheem Sterling will be itching to get off the bus, itching to get down there, get on the pitch thinking there's goals for me.
And of course, he was captain in midweek as well. What do you think that would have meant to him? Because he's still so young, really, or he feels still so young to me, to be, captain now of this team.
Well, it's amazing. Was it his 250th appearance for Manchester City? So that just starts to tell you how much he's contributed. Wow. Something like that's very close, and just tells you how much he's contributing to this football club, how much it's his home. He's getting better and better. And to be given that sort of stature of captain, that's something you really, really take close to you. And I've had it, and players, Shaun, as well. When you get that armband, I don't know what it is. It's something great. He's earned it. He's done ever so well, and he keeps getting the goals. But it's not just about goals for him. He likes supplying. He likes creating things. He won the penalty the other night. He's fabulous to watch.
I think he'll really love having the captain's armband for whatever period, whether it's a game, a few games, etc. But I think he's taking that mental on, because you see the stuff that he's even doing off the field. So he's stepping into that leadership role. So when I think to the time when I sort of had the opportunity to be captain for a few games, it was immense. It was because it was like you're captain of Man City. And I kept having to say to myself, just play your normal game. Just play your normal game. Don't try to do or be anything different to what you normally do. And Raheem, since he's had the captaincy armband, has done exactly that. Been himself, scored goals, and continued playing well.
So in terms of on the bench today as well, we do have obviously Torres, Phil Foden, who came on to contribute, to work together for that goal. Do you think we might see one of them coming off the bench today, Michael, at some point, maybe if, later on in the game for Sergio?
Myself and Alistair Mann were covering the game, obviously, against Porto. He was sort of looking at the bench and saying it's not normally as depleted as it was. Who could come on and change the game? And I felt Torres had something to prove. Phil Foden would have been itching as well to get on the pitch. So them two especially are really, really ones to watch. And the way they came, and I felt it would open up for Torres and get that sort of space, but wasn't his finish great? As he took it there, as he takes it to the right-hand side and he curls it straight in, that'll give him great confidence. And it was fabulous. And Phil Foden just, again, look at him behind, and them two were working really well down that left-hand side.
Yeah, I just felt that they brought energy. Throughout the game, I thought, yes, at the end of the game, we were pleased with how the game went, but I just thought they just upped our level of tempo, intensity. They brought some pace about our game, and well-deserved with the goal. Phil Foot, was that a no-look pass? He's just sneaking.
You did a few of them, didn't you, Shaun?
Yeah, I don't know if I meant it, though.
Now, it must be so important for players to have players that they can link up with really well, Michael. We saw there Phil Foden, Ferran Torres. It seems like they are striking a bit of a partnership, and it would be brilliant to see that flourish in the first team.
Well, it would, and it's the youth, the enthusiasm. They'll want to keep improving the game. I think that's why Torres will have come. He took the number 21 shirt. It's a big call. It's big,
a lot of pressure.
It's a big one to take. And it's, he learned very, very early in his career. I think he played 50 league games by the age of 19. So progressing as a young player, he's got his international cap now. So he wants to really, really step on this season. With Pep Guardiola, he'll be a coach who you'd think you'll go on and learn. So exciting times from them too. But the squad's hard, isn't it, to get in, to play regular. But hopefully we see them yet again feature for Manchester City today.
And of course, both Torres and Foden are nominated for the European Golden Boy Award. They're both on the shortlist for that, and the winner of that is announced in December. Of course, Torres getting the nomination from his former club. I'm not sure he got it just from, that. Oh, it was a wonderful goal. Youth, though, is really, really important. It's been really important in the history of both Manchester City and West Ham. West Ham, of course, have brought through some of the best English talent in the last few years. Looking again to our bench, we do have one of our academy graduates is on the bench in the form of Cole Palmer. Brownie, you, of course, came through the academy here as well. How do you think Cole Palmer's feeling? Of course, he played in the Burnley game earlier in the season, but how would he be feeling now? He's made the bench, Premier League game, he's only young. Give us some insight.
Well, I think he'll be just pinching himself. He'll be delighted. I mean, looking around the dressing room, I can imagine the first time you get changed and you sat there and you're looking to your right, looking to your left, thinking, oh, what am I doing here? This is what you've always dreamed of. And he'd just be so excited. Yes, he's trained with them for some time, but when it's match day, when you're involved in and around it, and you start to see what it means to the senior players, what's at stake, how ruthless it can become. So you've got to learn very, very quickly. He'll be absolutely delighted to be involved. It's when you go from that and then all of a sudden there's a gap of a few weeks where you don't make that bench, you don't make the squad. It's mentally how you cope with that. So you've got to think, well, okay, I've gone this far. I've got to understand I was privileged to do that. I've earned some sort of right. But it's then controlling, because he's not going to be in all of the time with the squad unless something drastically changes. So it's dealing with that along the way, enjoying the journey at the moment. Fantastic for him.
Now, our academy are also playing today, of course. The men's team against West Ham kicks off at 12:30, but also our EDS team are in action today. They are playing Arsenal over at the CFA, and that kicks off at 1 o'clock. And wow, how beautiful does that pitch look today? Wow. And you are lucky enough to be able to watch that game live. You can get that over on City Plus. So if you fancy that kicks off at 1 o'clock. I'm reckoning we might have a 2 TV situation going on here, or maybe that game on your laptop, the West Ham game on your TV, maybe on your radio. We can do it. We can watch it. We can juggle them all. I'm sure we can today.
We've got enough screens here. We can definitely do that. Let's get back to today's game though, because West Ham, especially the London Stadium, it's been a happy ground for Manchester City to go to of late. I've got some of the previous scores. All right, April 2018, Manchester City 4, West Ham 1, and then November 2018, it was 4-0 to City there, and then August 2019, it was 5-0. Raheem Sterling got that hat trick, as we said before. Shaun, it feels like this is one of our places where we can go and we just have a bit of fun. We just run riot, really.
Yes, but the City wouldn't take it, wouldn't be going there and thinking it's going to be an easy game. I think they'll get their rhythm going, get into the game, and then start to score a few goals. I would anticipate City still winning this game. Yes, West Ham will be solid and be firm and try to perhaps play a counter-attack game, but I anticipate City playing well, exceptionally well, and winning the game.
Michael, did you have any lucky grounds when you were playing? Was there anyone that came up on the fixture list and you thought, yeah, I fancy this one?
There was a couple, but for me, you're playing generally in Premier League games. I sort of that holding midfield player. You just want to break it up, sort of. Apart from being at Sheffield United where I scored lots of goals, ultimately it was just about stopping the opposition, trying to be resolute. So there's some grounds I really enjoy playing. Early on in my career, I remember playing at Aston Villa. I was there last night and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But this is certainly a stadium that Manchester City enjoying. I think they've been there 5 times, won all the games, scoring 22 goals, conceding 1. So that just tells you, we don't want to tempt fate too much, but the stats there in front of us, it seems really Manchester City Stadium, not West Ham's.
It does, and it does feel like, Shaun, when the Blues do go there, we've seen that they can score lots of goals, and it feels like really 22-1 on aggregate. They're going to be full of confidence. Let's just say it. And this season, we've had a win, a draw, a loss, and then we've seen obviously another win. They're going to want to continue that and really find their form, and today's an opportunity to do that.
Yes, and as players, you know the teams that you play, that you get good results against. So the players will know that, in aggregate, this is the situation that every time they go there, they're winning by 2 or 3 goals or more. So the players will be thinking, this is a great opportunity to build this momentum, continue playing well, so that we can keep moving up in the table.
Did you have a team, Shaun, that you particularly liked scoring against, or you scored more than anybody else? Obviously, there's a lot of goals. Can you remember?
I scored against everybody. Burnley was a team. It's funny because it was when we played Derby game and when we played Burnley. Burnley was just one of those teams that I could show up and players sometimes have a warm-up, and it's like warm-up isn't going too good, and they think to themselves, I may not have a good game. I could have a rubbish warm-up, and I'd go and score 2 or 3 goals against Burnley.
I remember really vividly at Main Road when I used to sit in the North Stand when I had my season ticket there, and we had a game against Burnley that we won 5-0, that you played in, that you scored in. And to me, back then, seeing City score 5 goals in one game was pretty much like unheard of. Well, a man that it is normal to see a lot of wins is, of course, Pep Guardiola, and we can hear from him now.
Is it hard for the manager at the moment with the games so thick and fast to think about every game as much as you normally would like?
But it's what it is. It's what it is. So for the teams who play in all Europe, playing in international competition, the schedule is tight, there's a lot of games. It happened for the last season, so for the COVID situation, you have to adapt. So it's what it is.
Yeah, and as you said, maybe the rhythm of your team is the most important thing, the balance and the rhythm of your team. That's what you're always trying to find?
Yeah, of course. So we didn't have much preparation, and we have to get it during the game. So, and that's why today is another opportunity to improve what we improved the last games, and get up to the table.
And on those same team, Kevin De Bruyne on the bench, that's important.
Yeah, of course. I'm is close too, and Nathan as well. So it's important. Yeah, important players come back.
Good luck today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The line that we need to follow.
Yes, everybody talking about Kevin De Bruyne being back on the bench. Yes, it makes us all feel good. So that was the thoughts of Pep Guardiola. Now, on the other side, on the West Ham bench, of course, David Moyes. Now, a little quick fact for you. His first game as a manager against City was when he was managing Preston. And it was when we got beat one day. And it was a game where we got beat 2-1 that featured a certain Mr. Shaun Goater. I'm pulling the memories out today, Shaun. Can you remember that game?
I forget all defeats. That's the best way to go to the next game. It would have been David Moyes' early days. And, clearly he was quality then. Let's hope he's not so good today.
Yeah, and of course, we do have the West Ham team news for you now. Kyle, who have they got today?
So West Ham, they're lining up. They've got Fabianski, they've got Kufal, then they've got Balbuena, Ogbonna, Cresswell, Musuaka, and then Bowen, Soucek, Rice, Fornals, and then also Mikhail Antonio. And their substitutes look like Yarmolenko, Lanzini, Noble, Hilaire, Diop, Fredericks, and Randolph as well. I've got to pick one of those names out. Mikhail Mikel Antonio, we know Manchester City have had some issues at the back in their defence. He's going to be someone who's going to be throwing his weight around today and really getting into the action. And we know he can score goals as well. He's done that a few times this season, so he'll be one to look out for, Michael.
He is one to look out for, and he knows a couple of the Manchester City players. He actually lives locally. You wouldn't think that. He lives in Alderley Edge. So he gets to see them at the school gates. So it's one of those with Mikel Antonio. He knows the area, knows the lads personally, but how well has he done in that improvement back end for West Ham? We're in sort of a little bit of trouble. His goal returns, possibly, he's got 10 goals of recent times. He is the one to watch. He is the danger. He's doing incredibly well. He's a great lad, nice person, but he gives everything. And West Ham are really enjoying him. And we talk about Manchester City going to West Ham, and we're joking about the London Stadium being a good ground. I think this is a different West Ham side. David Moyes has got them really organised, got some great results last week, coming back against Spurs. That'll give them that confidence. So I don't know if it'll be as comfortable as we'd expect.
So you said Mikel Antonio lives in Alderley Edge?
He does. His family are all there, his children, so he does travel it between the two. He does stay through the week down, obviously, in London, but he is on that train, in that car, regular.
That seems nuts to me. Like, generally, you often people want to live in London. Like, that's obviously. I think Manchester's the greatest city in the world. Did you ever live away from where you were playing, Shaun?
No, I had to be close, and for me, it helped
Bermuda.
Me I knew that was coming as well.
He didn't live in Bermuda and commute.
That was some commute, Shaun.
Just come in every session and you helicopter, I'm in. No, for me, I needed to be close, 20, 30 minutes. And that was perfect for me because I did enjoy my rest, or shall we say my recovery.
I know what it was like. I personally, when I was playing for Portsmouth, had a young family living in Manchester, so the training ground was right next to Southampton Airport. So 3 days a week I would fly in and back,
It's such a great insight to actually think about players travelling so far and for them to actually...
It's until the fog comes in at Southampton and you circle it across and you know full well the boys are down there training when you get there. Avram Grant never knew I lived in Manchester for about 6 months, so I didn't tell him.
I find that amazing.
Warm-ups on the way.
Yeah. And now we can see West Ham warming up just there. They are going to be up for it. Michael, you did mention something. They were losing 3-0 against Tottenham, and I watched the game, and across my social media, I put up, from the 81st minute when they scored the first goal, I said, no, it's not happening. And then Lanzini scored. When you say top bins, this is top bins. It was 3-3 they ended, so they're definitely going to be full of confidence coming into this game.
Well, it was a postage stamp, wasn't it? Literally in the top corner, he sliced across the effort in the 94th minute to get that equaliser. It was the last kick of the game, literally in the top corner. But they were pushing the Spurs side, who were comfortable. There's an own goal with Sanchez, but Yarmolenko came on, as did Lanzini in the 77th minute. It was Mikel Antonio who actually stepped aside, and then the recovery came. So great team ethic, and that's what that really pleased David Moyes, because at times last season they were quite weak. They didn't really find that formation, but he seems to have found that bit of gel, and the one to watch. They are improving.
Now that game, it got us thinking about the masterclass of a comeback that happened in 2004 when Manchester City played against Tottenham. Michael, you got a bit of a smile on your face there because you played in that game. You was on the wrong side of it in that one. Can you talk us through it?
I'm just looking at the report now because I had to refresh my memory. Not that it needs refreshing.
You blanked it out.
If there was ever a team that I wanted, obviously, to go on and win, would have been Manchester City. But at 3-0 up at half-time, Joey Barton was getting very, very frustrated. I might have wound him up a little bit as they're on the way. But it was all fun and games, and
That's
Joey's looking.
I
was just looking, I think it was Rob Stiles, someone who was the referee, and he was getting frustrated with Joey. Got to the red card, and then at half-time, I remember sat there thinking, this is a chance of a final. Sat there for Spurs thinking, surely this is one to be done, but I should know Manchester City do things differently. They're one to watch. And what a second half. It was just, you're playing in the game, and you just know after the first goal goes in, I'm thinking, oh no, this doesn't feel right. It really didn't feel right. And I'm looking, I'm thinking, I know what's coming because I've been in that dressing room. I know all about Manchester City. And I just don't know if the other players thought, oh, well, it's okay for Spurs, we'll just keep playing with some great players. And you look at the squads, from fabulous players from both teams. And I just felt it was coming. And then sort of John Mackin late on in the game as the ball goes in. It was just amazing scenes for City. And for me personally, that was a great opportunity to go on and win something. It was just another crazy game.
For those that are jogging their memory now, that was, of course, 2004, and it was the FA Cup fourth round. And it was a replay as well, because we'd drawn the first game, and we knew that the winner of that game would be going on to play Manchester United at Old Trafford, which we didn't regularly do back then as well. So it gave it that sort of extra little bit of excitement. Now, I remember being at home watching it and going 3-0 down at half-time, and I was like, I'm done with this. I'm not watching anymore. I went off to do the dishes. And then you sort of hear one go in, and of course Joey Barton gets sent off at half-time, which didn't. You say you wanted
that was
it, but it probably
interesting in the
didn't take a
tunnel.
lot.
I've got to say, it was interesting. The argument was brilliant. You know what Joey's like. It was good. So he'll have a laugh about it now.
Half-time as well, didn't he? It wasn't even in the game.
Yeah, he did. Going down the tunnel.
It must be on the opposition team, all right. You said it's great seeing Manchester City doing that, but how do you stop them? When a team has got that much momentum, how do you actually stop them? Is there anything, obviously on that day Tottenham couldn't do it, but what do you have to say as a team to yourselves to maybe when one goal goes in to not have another, the second goal goes in, Bosvelt scores, makes it 3-2, and then is it just panicking?
Well, that's always the difficulty, and you're on the pitch, in hindsight it's fantastic, isn't it, when it happens to you, but when it gets to sort of 3-2, are you sort of saying, right, we need to change this now, get behind the ball, just sit and wait? But against 10 men, we probably felt like, and that's a Spurs mentality as well back then. Some great attacking players that will go on and get another. We'll keep travelling forward. But then it was just almost fate. I knew it was coming. I was on the pitch and I felt, and you could see Manchester City players go, this is there for us. These have gone, and it changed so much. Like two halves of contrast was amazing, really.
I don't know if you were ever involved in any particular games where City came back. Any famous games, Shaun? Yourself? Any in the memory banks?
You'll have to help me out there. 3-0, being down 3-0. No, I don't recall coming back sort of 3-0 down. Yeah, we were just average then.
I don't know which game you were meaning.
I was indeed thinking about 99. Obviously coming back.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking 3-0. Sorry.
Not 3-0 quite, but...
So, yeah. Well, yes. The 99. That's just amazing. To this day now, that game had such an impact on me that when I see games and I see teams 2-0 down and going into sort of the 97th minute, I still have a thought. You just need that one chance to put that one chance away to be able to bring that back and potentially go in and win that game. But yes, initially I was thinking you're talking about 3-0s, but yeah, what a game, and to be involved, and
it is amazing, wasn't it? That game was amazing. It was brilliant to be involved, and I was involved in a couple of my career, and I remember the North London derby at White Hart Lane was 5-4 to Arsenal. So, yes, it was again on the losing side, but it was just amazing. We talk about games involved in, so special games like that is incredible.
And I really believe that 99 game, the feeling there that we came back from that, implanted something that made us always feel like we could come back, which led into that 2004 game with that incredible comeback, which of course led into a later game where we had a wonderful comeback as well, which I'm sure nobody needs reminding about. But of course, back to today's game, we are playing West Ham, and we do have a lot of links with West Ham. We've already talked about the fact that we both like to bring youth players through, but we've had a lot of players that have played for both clubs. So, gents, we're going to have a little look now at some of the players, and we're going to ask, Kyle and I are going to ask you a bit of a tough question. We have tipped you off. We're going to ask you eventually to decide who is the best player that played for both clubs.
We're looking at one right here in Carlos Tevez. I mean, what a player he was. Obviously, he went from West Ham. He did eventually make it to Manchester City. And Brownie, I mean, to have a player of that calibre here at the club, it just said a lot, really, didn't it?
It did. And I don't know if you remember the circumstances of him going to West Ham, that uncertainty. Was it right? Was it legitimate? Sheffield United certainly didn't think so, and that cost them the relegation that year. But just that tenacity that Tevez had, and to sign him for Manchester City, he got stronger and stronger. And what a player to watch. He had a bit of everything, didn't he? And it's going to be hard to top that. But when you ask the question of the best for both teams, that's where for Manchester City he was very good, but for West Ham he was only there for such a short period of time.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with Brownie. In terms of him at West Ham, I think it was Alan Pardew that took him there. The reason I remember, because Alan Pardew took me to Reading and then left. So I went out, cheers. But yes, he's phenomenal. He was probably one of the first players in terms of, when you look at today in terms of the press, so how he presses teams. Yes, we had Paul Dickoff used to do it back in the day, but we used to run around and do that individually. Like, you go, I'll leave you, go ahead. But Tevez was ratting at it. So out of possession, he was at it. In possession, he scored goals. He was, I really liked him. I thought he was brilliant at both teams. But as Brownie says, he was only at West Ham for a short period. So for me, it would be Tevez. Play with Stuart
He seemed
Pearce.
ruthless as well, though, didn't
Yeah.
he, Tevez? Really, really ruthless. He didn't care. He was upset in how he got about his job. He was just
On
to
and off
win.
the pitch, eh?
Just to win and really go and set that tone. Remarkable player. And he had some real fire in his belly, didn't he? Desire to go and do well. And he had composure, and at times that's not always the case when somebody who can have that desire and chase, but at times you just sit back and then he delivers sort of some killing sort of techniques in football and goals that you've not seen.
And another player that certainly had fire in his belly, and I'm going to give you a quick warning now, get the tissues out, pre-warning for anybody that's a bit emotional today. Another player that played for both clubs, and of course the name that came straight to my mind was, of course, our adopted Mancunian. It is Pablo Zabaleta, who has recently announced his retirement. Oh my, I love the man so much. I love it. We have an affinity with him, Kyle, don't we? He's a Mancunian.
He is indeed, and you just see there, he's not afraid to go in and have a bit of a fight. He's not afraid to give his all on the pitch, and seeing him leave Manchester City, go over to West Ham, where he spent 3 seasons, I think it was. I think we see the reception here. This is it, the Etihad. We see the reception he got from Manchester City fans themselves. I mean, it just shows everything, doesn't it, Brownie? What a player he was, and actually how much he means to Manchester City fans.
And you know what was great for him there? Right at the end of his career, probably thinking Manchester City was his home, that he wouldn't have that opportunity to come back. Yes, it was in a different shirt, but he'd have been sat there looking for that fixture, knowing full well his career is coming to an end. And as a player, and the fans don't always realise what that would have meant to him. Forget all of what he'd done, forget everything, but what that means to you as a player to stand there and get that reward, that accolation of actually appreciation of what he's done. For he's going onto that pitch knowing that that's probably one of the last real buzzers he's got as a footballer. Would have been, it would have been really special for him. I'm sure the next sort of few weeks we get him and people will interview him and ask him about his career, and I bet you that's right up there.
Oh, I love him so much. I was a bit sad though when I read about some of these comments he'd made about his retirement, Shaun, in that he was thinking that he might have gone, he was hoping that he might have gone and played in Italy, but now with no fans watching the games, he thought, well, what's the point? It's kind of I feel like it's almost a sad end, for such a magnificent person.
Yes, it is, and hopefully with that decision, you'd like to think that perhaps he'd be involved with the club. I could see that in some way, shape, or form, whether he decides to go in a coaching side of things. But I could definitely see him playing some role here at the club. So hopefully, if he's decided to not go play, that we could eventually see him around the club.
He's going to be looking for you, Shaun, if you don't say he was the best to play for both sides. So remember that. He's going to be coming close, mate.
Now, I have got to say, if he wants to come and join us here in the We're Not Really Here studio, at any point, Pablo, you're welcome, all right? Come and join us. Come and talk about your experiences and all of your memories. I think that would be very, very special. Now, we will be putting a poll out of these players, all right, to see who we think is the best player to have played for both Manchester City and West Ham. And that brings us nicely onto our next player. This is the third one with a bit of fire in the belly, I think we can say. Craig Bellamy. He definitely wasn't afraid to speak his mind and to share his thoughts and to leave it all out there on the pitch, was he, Michael?
Well, that's an understatement with Craig Bellamy. I mean, from a very early age, it was great. I come up against Craig Bellamy playing for Norwich as he set off on his journey for a wonderful career. Just looking at his goals and what he brought. He had some bad injuries along the way, which probably hindered his development where he would have got. But he was annoying on the pitch. I enjoyed the challenge with him. And he had this phrase when anyone tackled him, he'd say, "How dare you tackle me?" I mean, that's how he went about as a young kid from Norwich, just getting into the team. So it just shows you he had that belief, he had that confidence, he knew he was going to go on.
He was one of those players as well that you always hated unless he was playing for your team, and then when he was playing for your team, you loved him because of all that about him.
I mean, when I think of him, I just have the vision of him playing against United, the City, and he goes across Rio Ferdinand, who was no slouch, who was quality. And he just put afterburners. And it's the first time I seen Rio run and looked like he was doing parachute training. There was a parachute behind him, and I
but
just
he'd have had the front, wouldn't he, to wind Rio up as well.
Yeah,
he'd
he
have gone
would've.
straight onto Rio and said, "Let's have it, let's go."
have it.
You know, he
that was
won't be
his
ashamed
way,
to do it.
I love that. I just loving all these little insights as well from the pitch. Now, I did mention the poll, and we can actually go through it and see some of the results and actually look at what it is looking at on the Manchester City Twitter. I think it's being put out there, okay? So you can see Zabaleta is absolutely storming ahead. He is our favourite player to have played for both Manchester City and then also West Ham. And then another player which I want to pick out that is on there, all right? He's third currently in the list is Ian Bishop, all right? And he's someone that growing up, he was, as a City fan, he's someone I always looked up to and thought, wow, going to Main Road, being able to watch him and being able to actually watch him perform. What was he like as a player? What can we say about Ian Bishop that you saw and you found on him?
Well, I'm glad you've mentioned Ian Bishop, really, because as a young player who's come to Manchester City, looking up to him, playing in the same position, he taught me quite a lot, really. I didn't always take it on board that how much of a gentleman he was. So I was a little bit more ruthless than that, and that's the way I played. But when you talk about what he contributed to both clubs, yes, Zabaleta contributed massively to Manchester City, but not so much to West Ham. So it's hard to do this poll to say, yes, favourite player to have played for both, but who's contributed most to both. And I just remember coming up against Ian Bishop when I'd left Manchester City. He knew I didn't want to leave, going to Sheffield United, and I'm playing up against him. And I scored the goal at Bramall Lane to go 1-0 up against Manchester City days after signing for Sheffield United. And I didn't want to celebrate, didn't want to do anything. And I remember Ian Bishop on the opposite team come up to me and he says, "Well done, mate, you deserve that." And I thought, wow, that's from your opponent that you're playing against. And I just thought it was a real touch of class, and I'll never forget what he did there, because he understood the circumstances. Yes, he didn't want to be losing the game, but he appreciated my circumstances. I just thought it was a really nice touch. Wonderful player. He had a bit of everything, didn't he, Shaun?
Yes, he did. Ian Bishop, when people hear me talk about sort of, one of the best players I play with, they hear me always talk about Ali Benabia. But Ian Bishop was that player between him and Kevin Horlock, because they were the ones that would settle us down, because we used to do a lot of the balls that was into me was in the air, so I was always fighting, this sort of stuff. But Ian Bishop was sort of, "Here, Shaun, have a touch." And it was just like, I could have a proper touch of the ball as opposed to fighting. So Ian used to settle us down and sort of transition the ball and get us playing. And even going back to sort of the 99 game, he'd come on because, we needed to get in that sort of way and being settled down and get the ball moving. So Ian was sort of underrated in the way he played, certainly.
I'd love to get Ian Bishop on this show as well. If you are watching, Ian, when you're allowed, come over from America. I know you live out in the sunshine in Florida now, but we'd love to have you on. I bet he's got a lot of stories, because you guys share stories about him, and I'd like to hear him and his sense of humour. Would that be worrying?
He's got a lot of stories, I tell you that.
Yeah.
And another player that played for both clubs was, of course, David James. So David James, in terms of obviously a huge hero for West Ham, and then of course came to us. What did you think originally when we signed David James?
You always wondered, he was always questioned, wasn't he, David, regarding what he's going to do next, where his career is. He was the best at some times. When he was good, he was amazing. I remember going into Portsmouth, watching him towards the end of his career, playing with him. After watching him for many years, he still had that desire, that training every single day. And his hands, he could pick the ball up like a tennis ball. And I just remember him throwing it out to wide areas, but he could do it like that, like a tennis ball. And and I'm like going, how can he do that? But physically sensational, kept himself in fantastic sort of shape. And he thought about so much detail about anything of any area he could gain advantage, probably overthought every situation. So he's a big thinker, but by what a goalkeeper. Over the years, wonderful clubs, and I still play in at the end of the seasons. We've gone Hong Kong tournaments with him now and still play with him, and he's still got that desire to do well.
Shaun, did you ever come up against David James? Surely there must have been times where you're coming up against a keeper like that.
I'm sure I did. I somehow I think he may have been in Newcastle. I think I happened to score. And the reason, because when I used to play against certain goalkeepers, for me, I'm this little kid that comes from Bermuda. So I used to be like, right, I'm scoring against England goalkeeper. I need to score against him. So David James would have been one of those goalkeepers that I had marked down, got a score against him. And if I remember, I think it was a typical go-to-go, sort of the two of us going in, sliding. I don't know where the ball is. He doesn't know where the ball is, but it ends up in the back of the net. So you just come out like this, go, yep, that's me.
He must have absolutely frightened some attackers, though, Michael, because as you said, the stature of him, I've heard so many people talk about just how big he actually is. Having someone like that in goal who's not afraid to come out and command his area, he must have been a nightmare to play against.
Well, he's still in training. So he didn't want to be beat. He went crazy. If you ever chipped him, it ever did. But I couldn't help myself to try and be cheeky, and he'd just know it's coming. And in a shooting practice, when you were doing that, you know what the goalkeepers are like. If you go to chip them and they catch the ball, well, and J-Mo can boom it, by the way, literally go and get the ball. He couldn't help. He kicked it as far as possible because it's his last thing. You never chip David James. He hated it, didn't like it. But, what a career he had to play. Physically fantastic condition we mentioned, and he played till he was 41, then did the management side. And I think he's covering the game today for BBC Manchester.
He's coming for your job, he said.
Yeah, he's coming for it. Today. So I think he'll be enjoying it, Mike Marney there, doing the game. So he's still got that involvement, still wants to contribute, still enjoys his football.
And there is some other honourable mentions as well. I mean, we could probably spend the whole show talking about them, but a nice honourable mention, of course, to Stuart Pearce. How could we forget? Paolo Wanchop and, of course, Trevor Sinclair as well, all played for both clubs. Now, just a little reminder, of course, that the EDS are playing today. That game kicks off at 1 p.m. It's over at the CFA, but you can watch it live on City Plus.
Right, let's have a quick look at what you guys have been getting in touch with us, what you've been saying. You can use that hashtag, all right, WNRH. So if you are watching both of these games, all right, if you've got both of the screens on, I want to see your setup, all right? If you've got one on the TV, one on your laptop maybe, but you can watch both of them, all right? They both will be live. Manchester City taking on West Ham at 12:30, and then the Manchester City EDS taking on Arsenal. That kicks off at 1 p.m. So let's have a quick look at some of your tweets, all right? We've got one here, all right? It's from Nicole at ORL Chairman. All right, it says, it doesn't matter how early the game, the Orlando citizens will always cheer on Man City. And it's got a picture of them in their official supporters club bar, I think it is, with their flag as well. So all of you watching, I hope you enjoy. And you've used the hashtag, so you might even be watching this. Welcome from across the pond, all right? Next up, we've got Rob Salito, all right? He says, had to be an Aguero pumpkin. He used that many O's as well. Every Man City fan's dream pumpkin. And he's got a picture of the pumpkin with lots of O's all around it. And obviously that very famous time of 93 minutes and 20 seconds that all Manchester City fans know and love. And then next up, all right, we need to give an honourable shout out to this man today. Ilkay Gundogan. He's put a throwback to my 3rd birthday. Looks like I've always been into cakes. And my fashion game has always been on point, as he's blowing out his candles there today. Hopefully he'll get a very big cake after today's game, and hopefully he'll have lots of candles on there, but lots of goals to go with it after his excellent free kick in the game midweek as well. And then finally we've got another one from Vishak, and he says, an old picture, we won it then and hopefully we'll win it again today, with a picture of him supporting Manchester City from, it says, India right there, okay? So yeah, enjoy the game from all over the world. It's good to see and hear from you all. Make sure you do use that hashtag WNRH if you do want to get in touch.
Amazing. Yes, we absolutely love you getting in touch with us on socials. And Ilkay Gundogan's post there as well. If you're wondering, it is Ilkay's 30th birthday today. So a big happy birthday, Ilkay, from everybody at Manchester City. And Ilkay, of course, was Pep's first signing. He's into his 4th season with us now. Scored that incredible free kick on Wednesday. I mean, when you look back at his record, he's won 8 trophies while he's been here. And he's also scored some really, really important goals. When you can see that free kick from midweek there. I mean, it's beautiful. Michael, do you feel like, first of all, outside of City, him as a player, is he underappreciated?
I think so. I think he was with the Manchester City supporters early on, wondering what he's going to bring to the side. It was a good side that he came into. I think it took him a little bit of time as well. There was an injury to get up to speed, to get used to the style, the Premier League especially. But over the years, you've started to see what his contribution brings. So unselfish, so creative, some late runs into the box, pulls some goals out from nowhere at times. He's very intelligent and he works for the team. And there at the free kick, he sort of said, it's mine, I'm taking charge, I'm going to deliver. And he did that. And at 30, as a footballer, you do look at the card and go, is this the downhill moment? And it's inevitable, you're waiting for it all your career. But I think he's got so much more to give.
He really does. And Shaun, do you feel like these type of players are important in a team? So the players that just do their jobs really well. Maybe it's not the most flashiest or the most skill that we'll see.
He's a striker. They don't appreciate. They don't appreciate anybody else on the pitch. Let me tell you, Kyle. We can do all the running for them. All they want to do is get the ball and put it in the net. So he doesn't appreciate Ilkay Gundogan. He's going to tell a lie right now.
Contrary to Brownie's beliefs or what he said, no. So appreciate what he does, and I'm like Brownie. I actually like Gundogan and think he's underrated. He does many things, and why I say it's many things, he could actually be a holding midfielder. Some people argue and say he doesn't have the physicality, but there's games when I've seen him play holding midfield, and he doesn't need a tackle. He's had a 97% percentage of keeping the ball. He doesn't need a tackle. He's just kept the ball all game. Then he's also able to play slightly further up, so making those late runs into the box. Also, he has that quality to find that pass, and I think it goes missing because KDB, KDB produces. So we sort of say, well, Gundogan's not as good, but Gundogan I think is underrated, absolute quality, and brilliant to see him take that free kick, and what a goal it was.
On his own personal Twitter in the last couple of weeks, he was doing a question and answer, and somebody asked him who he thinks is the most underrated or unsung hero player out there at the minute. And he himself said Lukaku. But I would think, definitely you could be looking at him as very much an unsung hero.
What he said, he should put it on his own account.
Yeah,
possibly.
He should have said,
put your votes in right now, Lukaku or Gundogan.
Yeah. But especially when you look, he was, £20 million is all he cost us, and he's into his 4th season with us now.
He's a great player, and he's very intelligent. It's like Shaun was just commenting on, and the different roles that he can play. He can play the 6, he can play the 8, he can be advanced, he'll create. And it just sometimes goes under the radar, but to people who really watch the game and watch what he brings, how he ticks it over, fills those spaces, very intelligent. And if that's Pep Guardiola. He wants intelligent footballers who understand the roles and responsibilities that he demands for his football club.
Now, we've got to look at his position in the team and actually look at maybe today him and Rodri. People will look at that midfield without a Kevin De Bruyne, and it's going to call on a player like Gundogan to come up with some creativity right in the centre of the park. And he's definitely capable of doing that, isn't he? But this kind of double pivot thing that people have been talking about, that but you've not got Fernandinho. You need someone that is going to sweep up like Rodri, but then you've got a player with the creative skills that Gundogan has as well. It feels like they've got the centre of the park covered, and I feel quite safe with both of them there.
You've seen a different start, didn't you, at Wolves away, which has that back 5 where they put the 2 holding midfield players. Pep changed it slightly, which we hadn't really seen him do that before, with Fernandinho and Rodri together. So will he play that away from home against the 5 at West Ham, or will he feel that he can go and push them right back, that he doesn't need 2 sitters, just the 1 sitter to get them forward? But that's what I'm saying about Ilkay. He can do both roles.
That is incredible. Now, we do have a signed shirt for you guys from Ilkay Gundogan, from the birthday boy himself. We'll get some more information for you on how we can get that to you, all right? You can see it right there. Just go to mancity.com/citizens to enter the draw, and then you can get yourself a a signed Gundogan shirt. We normally have them here with us and we get them sent off first class to you, but it's already been stolen and put away. It's been sent. Shaun, have you got it? You got the...
Yeah.
Is that the one?
Somebody's not trusted on this panel today.
I've got to say, though, I know he's taken a big interest in it, who likes to collect as much Manchester City merchandise as possible. She's just started applying already, I think.
I wear the club shop, me.
Right, let's have a look back at the teams that are starting today. Manchester City taking on West Ham with just under 10 minutes to go until kick-off. We'll have a look at the City starting lineup. We do start with Ederson in goal. Then we've got João Cancelo, Eric Garcia, Ruben Diaz, and then Kyle Walker making up that defence. And we've got Rodrigo, Ilkay Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, and then it's Raheem Sterling, Riyad Mahrez, and Sergio Aguero. And then having a quick look at the West Ham team as well. 22-1 on aggregate, Manchester City against West Ham. This team will hopefully... Well, they don't want a repeat of what happened last time. 5-0 at the London Stadium. West Ham's team is Fabianski, Kufal, then Balbuena, and then it's Ogbonna, Cresswell, Musuaka, Bowen, Soucek, Rice, Fornals, and Antonio as well. I mean, we did talk before about how many goals we've seen. It is a very different season this season, though. Obviously, no fans in the stadium. And I feel like with West Ham, they've always had their fans. I've been there quite a few times on their back. And it feels like now they may be a little bit more free to express themselves and to play the football without the negativity.
I think this is the big talking point, isn't it? No supporters. Have we got a wide open Premier League? Is somebody who never expected going to be able to win it? West Ham getting results you won't expect. We've seen some crazy results all across the board, but when they've had this sort of start, I think confidence has obviously been a big thing for West Ham United, and as you mentioned, the supporters are quite vocal. They can be quite critical of the side, but again, the owners have certainly spent money at times, and then they've tried to save money. They've sold players this year. That wasn't sort of best pleasing to the supporters. But with these type of results, David Moyes in charge. We've got that experience in the backroom staff that we know. They're progressing, and I think it's just a little bit healthier at the moment, West Ham United.
So that is our thoughts ahead of the West Ham game today. But now we're going to hear the thoughts of Eric Garcia.
The line that we need to follow obviously is what we try and achieve with two important wins against two good teams. So now we want to continue here again.
Yeah. What dangers do West Ham bring to you?
Well, we know that they try to defend with a lot of people, but also attack with a lot of people. Always danger on the counter-attack. So we will need to try to avoid it.
Yeah. I imagine at the moment it's difficult physically because there's so many games. It's just congested season, not much pre-season, and they're a physical team.
Yeah, obviously we've played 3 days ago. Now we play again. A couple of injuries, but yeah, I think with the results that we are getting recently, it should be something positive to go to today's game.
Yeah, and the balance maybe it's always for most teams, but particularly for Manchester City who attack so freely at times. The balance between attack and defence, that's what you're always looking for.
Yeah, probably we will need to keep the ball even more than we do normally. So also for us, help us physically and mentally to get into the game.
Yeah, and you'll need some help maybe if Mikel Antonio's up against you. He's a big guy, fast guy.
Yeah. Obviously, he's a threat from them. They have also good players, so we'll need to have a look at all of them.
Good luck today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Eric Garcia there, his thoughts before the game today against West Ham. Michael, we've got to talk about Eric Garcia because it's a really interesting, let's say, position in the team. He's expressed maybe leaving Manchester City, which he's come out and said, but he's kept his place in the team. He's been started as well. Manchester City fans have been very vocal about this decision. Where do you sit on it? What has he got to do? He's playing first team action, and Pep did mention about seducing him to stay at Manchester City. So it's just a very interesting situation.
Well, I think he had many minutes that he could show everybody what he was about, where he could progress. Possibly he wanted more. He wanted somebody's got into his ear to go and change club, change another country. We were all expecting. He's not signed that contract. But he hasn't been placed first choice at the start of this season. He's now getting those opportunities by default, really, that we're not seeing Emerick Laporte, we're not seeing Nathan Ake, and that was probably the late change against Porto. But now it's about him to shine, because we talked about test of character going forward. We've mentioned about young players, what they get a taste, then they don't. People will be watching him now to see how he reacts, how he can play. I still think he's got a lot of learning to do, a lot of development. At times in his game, they need improving at this level we're talking about for Manchester City. So now, how can he go and prove to everybody, whether he's leaving or whether he's not, what type of footballer, what type of mentality he's got? I'm interested to see how he gets on in the next few weeks.
At the end of his interview there, they asked him, of course, about Antonio, who we talked about, and he didn't look scared. He looked, he's got nothing to worry about, has he, Shaun?
No, he's got nothing to worry about. But he's smart there. He just said, yes, he's a threat, and we've got to watch them all. You don't want to be giving him anything to be coming back on. He will know Antonio in terms of how he plays. That he's a powerful, strong player that will look to get entangled. So he'll be on his game today.
Okay, so we've got a couple of minutes now until kickoff, so we're going to do that horrible, ominous section that everybody hates. Although Kyle's actually really good at it, I've noticed on this show. And we're going to see what everybody's predictions are. So, Shaun, what do you think for prediction for the game today?
I'm going 4-1 to City. I'd like us to actually have a clean sheet because I think that's important about building momentum defensively, but I'm going to go 4-1 City.
Michael?
I'm going to wait for Kyle because he obviously gets it right.
No, Kyle doesn't get to just predict. Kyle has to tell us the order of the goal scorers.
Okay, the order, what minutes they're on.
I like that Shaun went first because he normally waits for me. I will jump in. I'm going to say 3-1 Manchester City. I think maybe the defence has been questioned at times, and we'll see that with the West Ham attack. But then Manchester City's attacking force is it's such a threat, and even off the bench as well. So I think there will be some goals today. I'm going to say 3-1.
Scorers, Kyle, scorers?
Oh, I'm not going to go into that much depth today. I'm not feeling it. I've not got the signals yet.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I'm under pressure now, and 4-1, 3-1. I do think with West Ham, the way they play, they could possibly push forward and try and get into Manchester City area. Are we going to say a 2-1 to Manchester City?
Oh, lovely. Well, I'll just go 1-0 then, so we've covered every single thing. But thank you very much for joining us today. We are just about to kick off. We, of course, are back here at half-time to get some instant analysis, and then back here at full-time as well. So have a lovely afternoon. Fingers crossed, our look at the London Stadium continues.
Season comes to an end, and it's a mixture of fortunes for Manchester City.
You tell me when.